Welcome to our preamble version of our Saturday Simulcast, just to bring you up to date on a couple of items. This is obviously the coaching search, a moving target. And before Tom and I get to the regular portion of our show, it is possible, and we heard some things late Friday night, early Saturday morning regarding a possible earlier timetable for Purdue. Mike Babinski and company, we know, will be out on the road today and this weekend. But again, mind you, this is a moving target. Things can change, and we'll give you the best information we know at the time. And please enjoy the show. Welcome to our Saturday conversation. Tom Dienhart, his eyes are not bloodshot from trying to figure out this coaching search. Neither are mine. And Brian Newbert is going to be covering Purdue, Nebraska later today. The Boilermakers take on the Cornhuskers. Everybody knows that at 2:15 today. Tom, there is a coaching search going on. You've been filing every day and putting some really good stuff on there about what the heck we know. We do know one thing, that Mike Babinski and company know how to do this. They're not making it easy for anybody to figure this stuff out, and rightfully so in today's world. But it really has been an interesting process so far, just because we don't know a lot of nothing, but we do know that there are a couple people that we think they've interviewed for, Tyson Helton being one. But what's your overall impression so far? This now would be day 4 if you count Wednesday as day 1 of the coaching search.
Yeah, I think it's an attractive job. It's got the interest of a lot of people, Alan, and obviously a big hire. Every hire is a big hire, but football coach at a Big Ten university with the momentum Purdue's had under Jeff Brom, especially the last 2 years. The investment being made in the program too, Alan. We know about the $45 million renovation work going on now at Ross-Ade Stadium as well. And so, yeah, there's interest. It's a program on the rise. And I think maybe the biggest issue people have, Alan, is the sense of urgency, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another job open right now, but the Purdue job that I'm aware of. There's a lot going on, right? The transfer portal open on Monday. Kids signing classes December 21st. The high school kids can start signing, of course. And it almost sounds funny to say this, Alan, but bowl prep. Don't forget about bowl prep. Purdue actually has a game to play. So, yeah, there's a sense of urgency, right? I know Purdue, Mike Babinski said this in his press conference this week. They don't want to move with haste, right?
Right. I don't think you want to either, in all honesty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is huge hire, right? So, yes, everybody wants to coach now. They want to coach yesterday. But we know Mike Babinski is going to do his just due. He's going to be thorough in vetting people and trying to identify the best candidate. I know there's a lot of anxiety out there, not just among the fan base, but parents, players, coaches. What's my future going to look like, Alan Karpick? That's what they all want to know.
Yeah, and that is the $64,000 question. We are up to our hot board 2.0 as of Friday, and I don't know if we'll be to hot board 5.0 by the time we're done. Who knows? But I do think it is interesting. A couple names that came up early for us. Todd Monken, obviously the OC at Georgia. What is he? The highest paid OC in the country, or close to it. Is a Midwest guy. And then the other one, Tyson Helton from Western Kentucky. It sounds, if our intel is correct, and we don't know, we never know for sure because they're not telling us directly, but it sounds like that maybe Monken is gonna stay with Georgia, not ready to jump before their college football playoff, which would be New Year's Eve when they take on Ohio State. And that probably will put him not in the picture at Purdue because Purdue, I agree with you, Tom, with what Mike Babinski said. He wants to get this done, but he's not going to do it in wild haste. And I think there might be a little bit of a sentiment if Youngkin is not in a situation where he wants to move just yet. Maybe he's not as that interested in the job. And I get that. That's a reasonable sentiment. But certainly Tyson Helton is an interesting candidate. Western Kentucky, coached with Jeff Brom. His brother, Clay Helton, was a coach at SC. Not that necessarily has anything to do with anything. But he's got an innovative offense. I don't think there's any doubt that Mike Babinski and the Purdue brass would be interested in having somebody that can sling it around a little bit and develop a program. Helton, 45 years old. What do you think about those two developments, and what we don't know 100% what reality is, but it seems like one may be still very much in the picture and one may be out.
Yeah, Jeff Monken, you're right, Alan. Big games remaining for the Georgia Bulldogs, and I'm sure Purdue would want their new head coach to be on the job ASAP, right? For obvious reasons that I talked about at the top of this simulcast. Transfer portal issues, recruiting class, you got to hire a staff. So you really can't have your head coach off and away, still working his other job. But again, I will say this about Todd Monken. The people I've talked to, everybody's impressed by Todd Monken. You said he's from Wheaton, Illinois, went to Knox College. Just well-respected guy, Alan. He's 56 years old. Been a head coach at Southern Miss. He's worked in the NFL, worked with Dirk Cutter. His resume at Georgia speaks for itself. So just a lot of positive things and a very laid-back personality, I'm told, that would really fit well in West Lafayette. And I tell you what, then you have Tyson Helton, like you talked about. Brother Clay was at USC. He's now the head coach at Georgia Southern. Their dad is Kim Helton, who coached the Houston Cougars, and I think he's on Tyson's staff as a consultant, I believe. But anyway, good lineage there. You talked about their relationship with Jeff Brom. He's almost like a up-and-coming Jeff Brom, kind of a coach cut from that same template, right? An offensive coach. He's been in Bowling Green for 4 years, Alan. He's got 4 bowl bids, all success, all 4 years. And again, I get a lot of good reports from people I talked to about Tyson Helton. So I think you would agree with me, right? If you were to pick maybe a front runner at this point, maybe it is the Western Kentucky head coach.
Yeah, I think it's certainly. And one thing we do understand, Mike Babinski, this is Saturday. We'll be on the road this weekend. We're flying around. I think we're kind of past the point of trying to do tail numbers and figure out where guys are, because we did find out one thing at the end of the Mike Babinski's press conference on Thursday that Brian Newbert had asked him as he was heading out the door. They are using a search firm for logistics, so they know what they're doing to try to keep, because confidentiality for a lot of these guys is really important, especially as these teams, some of these guys may be at teams that are in the college football playoffs or in big bowl games like we talked about, and that becomes an issue. But it sounds like, from what we understand, that they did reach out to Dave Clawson at Wake Forest, also Mike Elko at Duke. I think from what we understand, that Elko's $6 million buyout is probably more than Purdue wants to buy off. And Clawson, what do you think there? I mean, it sounds like maybe a family issue that might want to keep him at Wake Forest.
Yeah, he'd be a heck of a fit, I think, at Purdue. Dave Clawson, of course, was at Bowling Green and was offensive coordinator at Tennessee long ago. Just a very innovative offensive guy. He's had some great attacks in Winston-Salem in recent years. Just a terrific quarterback too, in Sam Hartman. So I think that offense and his personality would have been good fits in West Lafayette. But like you said, Alan, there seems to be maybe a family issue that may just want to keep him tied to where he's at this point. He's got a nice gig in Wake Forest, working in the ACC there. So again, I think he'd be a good get, but it sounds like, again, some family issues may be something that keeps him tethered to where he's at right now. And
I use the term family issue. I don't want family preference. I think, you have to remember too, that in these deals that spouses are part of this, children are part of this. Sometimes, and I think coaching, and this far more than I, in the wonderful world of NIL and transfer portal, you find something that works, and you're making $3 million or whatever he's making, a little over $3 million, I think, at Wake, and you say, boy, it's not all that bad here. Yeah, maybe it's $5 million at Purdue, but maybe this works. So I don't blame guys for that, because how much money do you need? Now, money's not the whole issue. We get that, but it is an interesting thing. I do agree, and you said this from the get-go, that the Purdue job is attractive, but it's got to find the right fit. And I think that's where it's interesting with Mike Babinski. You need to find someone that really wants to continue to develop, because you've got to get a person here, in my view, that can develop talent. You're not going to walk in, for a number of reasons, with as we know, we've been watching Purdue football for seems like 70 years between us, that you just don't get the 4 and 5 star talent. You've got to be all the time. You've got to develop it. You've got to play the transfer portal well, and you need to be a builder of a program. So it does take a unique individual, and it takes more than a 1 hour Zoom interview probably to figure that out if you're Mike Babinski.
Yeah, boy, Alan, you look how this job is, just how any college football job has changed from when Jeff Brom took over back in 2017.
No question.
Now. I mean, my goodness, the transfer portal, then you have the instant eligibility from the transfer portal. And of course, NIL are the big things that have taken place to really reshape the landscape of college athletics across the board, football being the biggest moneymaker of them all. So it's hypercritical. You get a coach, Alan, that not only can diagram an off-tackle play in a skinny post, but you got to get a guy that can embrace and know how to manage this new landscape, right? Particularly the transfer portal is the big one. And I think that gets back to being able to manage people, being able to relate to young people, Alan. This isn't 1975, 85, or 95, or even 2005, where these coaches can be dictators. And they're going to say jump, and the players are going to say how high. They're getting paid. Almost they're going to be there. They're basically professionals in a lot of ways. And you got to treat them as such. And I think you got to work with them. It's not your way or the highway. You may have to have 2 sets of rules, Alan, for players, like it or not. They're good players that deserve special accommodations. On and on it goes. You need a special personality, a guy who can handle, again, not just the dynamics of Saturday and winning the game, which is obviously a huge criteria for any head coach, but the ability to manage people, manage a roster, keep it together, Alan, and to build a roster in this whole new world order.
Yeah. One other name that we all knew when he was here, and a very popular guy and a very energetic guy, Jamarcus Shepard, now at Washington. And one of the things that, and again, I'm just using whatever experience I have and how you hire folks, and I haven't hired football coaches, but you interview guys too. And I'm not saying that Jamarcus Shepard couldn't be a candidate at some point in time. Certainly the players have expressed their love for him, and some of them have the desire to have him back in West Lafayette. My gut feeling is Purdue will talk to him at some point. Somebody will, from Mike Babinski or his staff. But, and you maybe talk about the importance of that, because you never know. It may not be Jamarcus Shepard's time right now, but it might be 3 to 4 years from now. Who knows? And you want to make sure, if you're interviewing folks, you also want to do the job in cultivating good relationships, keeping people that you really do respect in the fold. And you never know for sure where this process will take you at the end of the day. Yeah,
boy. Jamarcus is well thought of. You talked about that, Alan. Even Mike Babinski sort of addressed the voice of the players during his press conference on Thursday, right? And they've been very vocal for anybody who follows such things. And I'm sure everybody watching this
they're seeing it
on Twitter. So they all know the players are rallying around bringing back Jamarcus Shepard from Washington, where he works for Kalen DeBoer. Marcus would be a popular hire for the players. Bring a lot of energy. He knows what it takes to win at Purdue. He's from Fort Wayne. He went to DePaul. He's a proven coach, developing some good receivers. He's 39 years old, and he bring a lot of energy and juice to this job. Be a little bit of an outside-the-box hire, Alan, but as I wrote, I think on Friday, this has sort of been a trend. If you look at the NFL, and if you look at
college, a lot of young guys.
A lot of young guys, Alan. I mean, look at these in the NFL, the Dolphins coach, the Vikings coach, the Bengals coach, Sean McVay. You can go on. Cliff Kingsbury got the job at Arizona. They're hiring these young whiz kids, so to speak. In college, you're seeing it with Marcus Freeman getting the job at Notre Dame, having never been a head coach. You're looking at guys that look at the Pac-12, Alan. Dan Lanning at Oregon, who was at Georgia just as a coordinator. You have Kenny Dillingham just got the job at Arizona State, was a coordinator at Oregon. And even Lincoln Riley,
right?
He's only 39 years old. Of course, he was at Oklahoma before he went to USC. But you can find other examples of schools not being afraid, just because a guy doesn't have head coaching experience, of making that guy your head coach. And these are schools that are big time schools, Alan. This isn't Fresno State or Slippery Rock. And so again, as things in life go in cycles. But right now, there seems to be a fascination, a copycat, if you will, hiring style of maybe, hey, let's look at this young hotshot who can be a recruiter. He can build a staff around him to handle a lot of the X's and O's. And this can be a guy who really cultivates the talent and cultivates the roster for us.
And I agree with you, but Mike Babinski also was quite clear on Thursday of saying, yeah, I hear that. It's also what I'm paid to do is to hire the guy. And I like that statement. And I'm not nothing against Jamarcus. I personally don't think it's his time, but like you said, you never say never. And you do keep things open for maybe the next time or if something changes in this search. You just don't know how it's all going to play out. So I think Purdue is very smart if, in fact, and we don't know that absolutely to be true, but we sense that there's probably an interview happening at some level with Jamarcus. And I think that's good business on both sides. And one thing's for sure about Jamarcus, you get him in an interview situation, you may not, he'll have you singing and dancing about something because he's got a great personality and no doubt. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, how high money-wise do you think Purdue will go?
That's a good question. I obviously Jeff Brom was at 5.1 as a quote unquote quasi base. I think he made a little bit more than that. And his contract would have been by the time he got to 2027, had he stayed at Purdue at over 6. I really believe they would do in a 6 to 7 in that, if they thought they had the right person. And we do keep hearing from people that might know that, there is still the quotient of having a name person, and they're trying to identify that. I think that Mike Babinski, that's one thing I think is a big advantage for Purdue right now, is that Mike knows the landscape. He's been around. He doesn't get to. We saw him in the press conference yesterday. He's about as smooth as it can get, and he's not. I mean, he's not selling snake oil, so to speak. He just does. He knows what he's doing. And I think I think they'll have some flexibility if they think they have the right person and it's 6.5 to get him there. I think they would do that. I really do. But I don't think it's 9. I don't think that's happening. But I think because even the Elko situation with the $6 million buyout, and I'm not saying that he was their target, but even if in fact both parties agreed that that's just not going to work, that tells me a little bit that they're not going to just throw everything to get that done. But they know how important this hire is. We've used the statistic before, even before I was born. Purdue is yet to go back-to-back with winning coaches, going all the way back to Jimmy Phelan and Noble Kaiser. So it's a hard thing to do back-to-back winners, and that's why this job is an interesting one, and certainly one that's going to be a lot of intrigue about how it's going to play out. All right, I wanted to ask your opinion also, obviously, the developments of the week, Brian Brom and Mark Hagan, and you've in that and how you viewed that, because obviously Brian Brom will be around to coach the offense. And I was a little bit unclear. He will be the interim coach, or will they be an offense defense for the bowl game?
Brian Brom is the interim head coach. He's going to call
and then Mark Hagan will call the defense. And tell me what you make of that. I mean, obviously Brian Brom, to me, might be a case of we want Aiden O'Connell and Charlie Jones to play, and Brian can at least give you some stability in offense, but maybe take it a step further from your perspective.
Yeah, I had heard that from a couple of people, Al, and that was one of the reasons why Brian Brom was named the interim head coach. There was some thought that had Brian Brom not been the interim head coach, that maybe Aiden O'Connell and or Charlie Jones would not have played in the bowl game. So there's that. And I think Mark Hagan would have done a fine job too. So Brian is going to stick around. I think we obviously know, we heard Mike Babinski talk about Brian yesterday. Brian Brom is thrilled at this opportunity. Who wouldn't be, right? Yeah. And we saw him be the interim head coach back in 2020. He led the team to a win against Iowa in the season opener. And I'll tell you, Brian's a much different personality than Jeff.
He's 15 years younger too. I mean,
it's almost like not the same family. He just seems a little more calm.
Yeah.
And I think Brian's smart, well-spoken. I think he's respected. And I think he knows what he's doing. So now I guess the big question, Alan, and Brian and Mike Babinski said on Thursday that he would be open to having Brian Brom remain on the staff going into 2023. I guess I'm just not so sure if I'm the new head coach if I want a Brom on my staff. Nothing against Brian Brom, but I think I want to cut bait with everybody, name Brom, and move forward. Now, Mark Hagan, that's the big one, right, Alan?
Yeah.
Everybody in Purdue Nation is pounding the table for Mark Hagan to still stay part of it.
Love Mark, yep.
And I believe Mark wants to stay. I know Jeff Brom wants him. I think Mark wants to stay. He wants some type of guarantee, obviously, that he's going to have a job. I guess the saving grace to that end, Alan, is like we've talked about, maybe it was off camera. There's going to be a head coach hired before the bowl game, for goodness sake. So
have to think so, yes.
In my I think the hope for fans is, or anybody who wants Mark Hagan back, is the head coach is going to get hired and he's going to have a chance to talk to these people. And Mark Hagan being one of them, maybe at that point, before we even get to the bowl game, Alan, maybe the new head coach and Mark Hagan have worked something out. That's just food for thought. So we all want Mark back. I think he's not just a good coach, but he's a good person too.
What do you make, though, of the fact that Jeff Brom offered him said, hey, we want you at Louisville, and then he stays here? Was that, and I'm not going to put anything more into it and saying, well, is that was that a dissing of some sort, or is that just was that a preference? I mean, Mark had to make maybe a hard decision to say that, or maybe he still has a chance to be the Purdue's defensive coordinator in the bowl game and still go to Louisville. I mean, is that possible also?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. He could still go to Louisville after the bowl game.
As could Brian Brom, right? And very well could. Well,
I expect Brian Brom to go. Mark Hagan's still up in the air, but he certainly could still go to Louisville. That offer's on the table from what I understand. So we'll have to cross that bridge when we get here. I think Mark wanted to come back. He wanted to coach the bowl game, Alan. He wanted to coach his guys.
Yeah.
He wanted to finish what he started. I think that was a big part of it, I think. And so good on Mark, right? And most of the staff is still intact. Only 3 assistant coaches have left for Louisville. Ron English and Chris Barclay and Garrick McGee have all departed. All the other assistant coaches are still on staff, so it's still a pretty robust staff. They may have to use some GAs like DJ Knox to help with running backs, and they'll figure it out to fill in some of the holes there. And to a lesser degree, from, I guess, a super fan standpoint, the strength coach, Dominic Reno, is going to go to Louisville. That's a huge job. Anybody who knows football knows that's a huge job. So, and it's not a shock either, Alan. These strength coaches and their head coaches are tied at the waist. So that's always a big hire for whoever that next head coach is making sure you got a good strength coach.
Yeah. I think it is interesting on that standpoint is looking at the landscape of Purdue will have a team. It will be a challenge for Purdue, certainly in that bowl game, because, you've got Spencer Holstage already out, which is a huge loss. Mm-hmm. You've got to make sure, I always use it. It's a bad example, bad memory for Purdue fans. And it's apples and oranges. I'm not saying it. But when you lost in that Heart of Dallas game when when Pat Higgins ran that team and they got beat 58-13 by Oklahoma State in what looked like a scrimmage, I'm not saying that's going to happen. Purdue's really going to be challenged just from a mindset standpoint to make sure you've got all your ducks in a row. Maybe it's me at age 63 thinking, these guys can't get right. Maybe for the young guys, they don't care. They'll get up and play. I don't know, but it is an interesting study from that standpoint of getting ready to play in what is Purdue's biggest bowl game in 19 years. I mean, really in terms of the biggest game they've played, and hard to minimize it. You're going to have a lot of people watching you on national television. You're going to want to play well, no matter who's coaching that game and who's playing. It's going to be an audition for a next head coach, and you hope you can also represent the Big Ten well.
Yeah, maybe these Purdue players are going down there with a chip on their shoulder or something to prove on. And don't forget about this: is LSU going to be motivated?
Yeah,
because they won their division. They had a chance to go to the playoff. Remember, late in the year, but they lost to Texas A&M. So you got to wonder maybe if they're going to show up in Orlando with their shoulders slumped a little bit. We really don't want to be here. So there's always that dynamic hanging over all these bowls. Who's really motivated to be there? And maybe Purdue, even though they're going to be out-talented, maybe Purdue, I think psychologically and motivation-wise, Alan, they may end up being the more motivated team here, where they want to show Jeff Brom they can still win games, and they want to show their new head coach that, hey, don't forget about me next year.
Interesting dynamic, interesting thought. You could also build a case that Brian Kelly has to move that program forward, and this is his first game to really prove that it will be interesting. It'll keep us. We'll be watching you down there and all the work you'll be doing in Orlando.
Before we sign off, again, I want to get I can offer my input, but I think people really want to know, Alan, timeline, when you think the Purdue head coach is going to be introduced.
Well, I really believe, and reading the tea leaves and the people we've talked to, and gosh knows we're working on it. I can't imagine it'll be earlier than middle next week, and that would be the earliest. That would be my gut feeling, because Mike Babinski again is going to be out and about. You got to think over the next 2 and 3 days, making sure we know they're still reaching out to certain people, where they are on the tier. Are they tier 1 guys, tier 2? I don't know, but we understand, that that's the case as well. So it seems to me that it would be the absolute earliest would be Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday. And the second I say it, we'll have a press conference on Monday, but I just don't think so. And I think that I really do believe Mike Babinski's been around the block before. He's not going to rush to judgment here. I don't think there's any obstacles from a board of trustees standpoint. I don't know this, but Mike Berghoff, who has been the chair of the board of trustees and was very involved in the hiring of Jeff Brom. Mike Babinski and Mike Berghoff seem to work well together. And I would not be surprised if Mike Berghoff is not on the wagon train with those guys too in the interview process as well. So that's what's going to be interesting to see. I really think it'll be the earliest next week. Last comment I wanted to get, Jeff Brom, I believe, commented or said on Twitter, that Purdue basically said, name your. I don't believe that. I do not believe that. And we actually have some intel to say that I know Purdue respected Jeff Brom, and by no means did Purdue want Jeff Brom to leave, but they knew full well, and we had people inside tell us that they knew full well if that job came open, he was leaving, and with almost any guarantee, and it almost made little sense to counter that situation. So I'm going to guess that I don't know this. I'm just guessing that you certainly, out of respect, make a token. We'd love to have you here, Coach, but we understand that Louisville's your home. But I find it hard to believe that there was any huge counteroffer to keep me here, because I really believe that the people in the know in athletics, Mike Babinski on down, knew what the deal was with this. It darn near happened in 2018. It came within a half hour of happening in 2018 as well as it took a lot to get Jeff Brom here in 2016. Nothing against Jeff Brom, but he's a guy that is plotting about his future and has been very tied to Louisville. So I think Jeff might have been having fun with that. I don't know, but I don't buy a lot not.
I don't buy it at all. You shouldn't have said it, and I would not.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was a good look either, to be honest.
I would not have paid him another cent if he wanted to stay. I said, Jeff, you can stay, but I'm not sweetening your pot.
Because they just signed him to a deal in April, right?
I'm not doing this dance every year, Alan. I've done it a couple times already. If you want to go. That's fine. You did a good job. Thanks. But I'm not. There's this axe of inevitability that's hung over Purdue for the last 5 years. It's not if, it's when is Jeff Brom going to go to Louisville? When it got tiresome and old, and you can't continue to live like that. Go. That's fine. Thanks. We're not paying anymore. You can stay if you want, but you're going to stay and work with what we've already negotiated for you.
And, and Purdue's, to its credit, went over, not on social media, but also at the press conference, went out of its way and should have. I mean, I make no mistake. Jeff Brom, you checked a lot of boxes. He did a lot of really good things here. Yeah, and we certainly appreciate that from
it was well paid.
even from our business standpoint. It was great, from that. But no, I agree with you, and I think that Purdue also went out to do it the quote unquote classy way to treat him right on the back end, and I think if Purdue fans can hang loose for a few days and not panic about the fact that you don't have somebody, this can all work out relatively well. for Purdue that, you've had a nice passing of the torch, and now you move on to the next chapter.
We know it won't be Deion Sanders.
No, we do know that.
Imagine Deion Sanders in West Lafayette.
Oh, it'd be fun. He'd be great for us, wouldn't he? So we look forward to that, and we look forward to this saga, not necessarily coming to an end, but it will come to an end whether we figure it out or not.
Right by this time next week.
I think that's possible, and we'll see what shakes out between Tom Dienhart and Brian Newbert, myself, and Jordan Jones, and anybody else that's working on this. We have fun doing it up to a point, but we also would like some level of certainty, and it ain't about us. We get that. So, Tom, have a great rest of your weekend. I know you'll be at least looking at that phone from time to time and checking our message boards, but we'll have some fun. We'll try to keep you up to date. We'll have another update probably on Monday as well, but this will serve as your Saturday update, and we appreciate that very much. We want to thank also the Union Club Hotel for their sponsorship of Saturday Simulcast. The good folks there that Vicky Wicks and company for doing what they do for Gold and Black. So have a great rest of your weekend. Hopefully we'll all enjoy the basketball game this afternoon. If you listen to it after the game, you already know the result, but we'll look forward to that and a busy week ahead at Gold and Black. Thanks to all. And a reminder, one last reminder, $1 to join Gold and Black. I'll admit, coaching searches are good for business. So we've had a lot of people jump in. We appreciate you that have, and we hope you'll stick with us. So have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks so much.